What's up, everybody, and welcome to our fifth C Sharp tutorial. And in this tutorial, we'll be talking about, we're discussing about part of the syntax which I said we will uncover as we go further. Your host is Tolmorex, the coder. So, the part of the program that we're going to talk about is methods, right? Taking it back a little bit from how we write our C Sharp program. We start with using system, right? And then we have our namespace. We name our namespace. Inside we have a class, right? We're going to talk about classes in future tutorials, but what I want to talk about is what you find inside the class, or what follows inside the class. Static void main, right? That's a method, and that's a method that you always find in every C Sharp program, right? And ever since we started, ever since we started, we have been having that method. When I said no, I thought maybe I said C instead of C Sharp, because I am doing all the C languages in my tutorial. So I thought maybe I said C instead of C Sharp, but it seems as if my mind is sharp. It's early in the morning. But yeah, so it gets complicated in terms of these methods because they come in various ways, right? Especially when we talk about the attributes. So, looking at the main method, right? It starts with static, right? So, if you define a method which starts with static, you are saying that this is a member of this class. So basically, the methods that we're going to be discussing in this tutorial are members to our class. I know this might be confusing since we haven't really started talking about classes, but as I've said, we are starting from the inside and then going outside. So now we are moving a little bit step back, or a little bit level up, right? And we will explore all these concepts as we go further. Cool. So the first question is, what is a method, right? You have to understand what a method is before we even start declaring or defining methods. So a method is a block of code that gets executed only when called. And what do you call this method? You call this method inside your main function. So this is where you run all your programs. So you're gonna store, or you're gonna copy, or you're gonna call your method inside there. So basically what you do, or basically what's happening, or the whole idea behind the method is that you wanna have a block of code which does a specific action or a specific function, and you call that method whenever you need that action or function, or functionality, should I say. If you want to add, you can just call a method that adds each and every time, and it doesn't matter how many times you call the method, it will keep on doing what you want it to do. So you can call a method that does a specific action without you having to recode the whole thing. So a function makes it simple for you not to repeat yourself, which is following one of the rules in coding called dry. D for do not, D for do not, R stay, repeat, and Y is yourself. So do not repeat yourself. Rather create one code or your statements, and then call those statements upon the scenario where you want to use those statements. Cool. So let's look at the syntax, right? So the way you define this, I know this is not a proper or a general or generalized syntax for the method, because I spoke about attributes, right? But I don't want to confuse you when it comes to that. So we will discuss deep about these attributes in the next tutorial we have to, which will lead us to the discussion of a class, because we're going to be dealing with objects, right? So we'll get to that point. But for now, just know that there is a section below before this that gets to come, which is the attribute. But I didn't include it in this one because I didn't want to confuse anyone. I wanted you guys to focus more on the type of a method, right? So the first thing you do is you define the data type that the method is going to be dealing with, or the method or the value that will be returned by that method. Cool. So this is a data type, right? So what's happening with this data type is, remember in our first tutorial video we spoke about different data types: numeric data types, alphabetic data types, so strings, characters, booleans, all that, right? So those are the data types we're talking about. So you see how we started declaring them individually and all that, right? In terms of variables, you can also declare functions that returns a specific data type, right? Say for instance you wanna have a method that returns the age of a person, right? You can just do that, right? Then you're gonna follow with the name of the function or the method, and then open and close parentheses. But we'll also talk about this because this can come in various forms. You can have parameters or no parameters. So far this is a function, or this is a method that is parameterless. Cool. Then you have your statements, and then you have your return value, and then you close your method, right? So now what we're gonna do now is we're gonna discuss types of these methods, right? Reason why I want to discuss the types is because it always brings us to that discussion of the types of methods that we have, right? So the first method does have a return value. So this is a method that returns a value, right? And then we have a method that does not return any value. If it doesn't return any value, what keyword do you use on the data type section? You use void. That's you telling the compiler that this program, or no, this method does not return any value, right? Mostly you use that for methods that are just for displaying information, and that's it. Cool. Now let's open up our terminal. Cool. mkdir methods. There we go. Yeah, I should have opened my other tab for compiling. Yes, there we go. Therefore we're gonna start vim methods.cs C#, right? Cool. So we start with this line using system name space morex the coda class morex. Cool. Now let's begin. When we start our program, right, we always start with this keywords, right? Static, that's an attribute. For now, just know that that's a type of an attribute, which means, so if it's static, if you define a method with a static keyword, you're telling the compiler that this is a member of the morex class in this case, because our class is morex. Static void, and then that's the data type section. So this data type section is saying that this method does not return any, it doesn't have a return statement at all. If I put it that way, I think it makes it easy. You won't see any return statement, and you've never seen any return statement when we were dealing with this, right? So this is just a function. So this is a function that does not return anything, but it does specific actions, right? It runs your programs, right? Getting values from methods, all that. So far we have been just writing the whole program, our whole code in one function. but it gets messy if you are dealing with a big project, because you want to make sure that each part of that project is working, each and every feature is working. If you take, for example, a calculator, right, you want to make sure that the addition feature is working, the subtraction feature is working, multiplication and division are working as well. So you break that down into 4 functions: one for addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, right? Cool. And then we have main. And then you have this little thing. So this is a parameter of this method, but this is not just an ordinary parameter. We're gonna speak about the command line arguments in the next I don't know, not really next week tutorial, but we'll get to the part where we discuss about the command line arguments. So for now, just note that, just follow the syntax of how your program is, and then we'll break it down, right? So now we're breaking it down, we're breaking this level down and what happens inside a class, and then we're going to go back to a class and how you can successfully create your own class. We'll get to that. Cool. That's the method, right? So say we want to just create a method that displays information, right? So we have does not so this is a method without a return value, and then we're going to have a method with a return value. And then I want to also introduce something. You had me talking about something, method with parameters. So let's just say that this ones is those are the methods with and without parameters, and they don't have any, they don't have parameters. These two are not going to have any parameters. This is going to have parameters. Cool. So let's first discuss the method that returns or that has a parameter, right? So as I've said, the first thing is the attribute, right? So in this case, we're just going to use static. I'm going to break down these concepts in future tutorials, so don't worry if you're not following through or if you're not understanding. We'll break it down and you will understand everything, right? Cool. So this is where our slide starts, right? The first thing, you define the data type. So since this is a method without a return value, you're going to use the keyword void. I hope that makes sense. And then is the function name. So I just want to display, so I'm just going to call it display, then open and close parentheses, and as I've said, there are no parameters, so there's not going to be anything inside. It's just going to be empty. After that, I open, close. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to call upon console dot write line hello methods. We can just do it that way, and then we have a semicolon. And then in our main method, right, our main method doesn't return anything, but it calls or it runs the whole program. So I'm just going to call display, and there we go. So if I do C# compiler, then it's methods, and then there we go. It runs. Morex is not found. Okay, let me just compile it without renaming the output. The namespace system could not be found. I made a mistake there. It's a capital letter, and there we go. It ran without complaining, and there we go. So what we're gonna do now is use a mono methods.xe, right? And then it says hello methods. So This is what your function is doing, right? So you define a method that displays a certain text. Whenever you need that text to be displayed, you just call upon that method, right? You just call upon that method. Cool. So now let's head over to the one with the return value. So static void, that you know, right? And then this is gonna be, oh no, with the return value it shouldn't be void. So let's say we just want to return a character, right? So we can just define it as char and then say letter, open close, and then we have this. So we're just going to return a character, right? In this case that's a, and then we return that, right? Cool. But we didn't call the method there. Let's not rush into submission without calling the method. Then we're going to say console. Please don't be confused as to what am I doing now, because I'm supposed to just call the function as it is. So basically I want to call the function, but I want to format that output or the value that gets returned with this method in my program, right? So this is right line, and then I'm gonna have letter, and then that value, there we go, that value is gonna be letter, right? Because we have a method called letter. And then we say let's run this and also have a button as well, so that we don't just struggle a lot. So this is gonna be mono methods. Let's see. So it expected a semicolon, which I forgot, and we just have to fix that part, right? Cool. So let's have a button as well. There we go. Our button is running the way it's supposed to run, and you will see that this is the letter that gets returned by that function. You see how this whole thing works. So if you wanted summation, right, you could have your conditions. Okay, if this is this, then do this. If this is this, then do this. Or you can also have it in your maybe your return. Did we speak about arrays before? I doubt we did in C#. Okay, I will discuss about those in the future tutorial. Because you can have an array with two values, right? Or two items. The first item, it has a text, and the second item, it has a value. So we will talk about that in the next tutorial. Not really the next tutorial, because I don't want to complicate these tutorials and make them not so easy to follow. So we will discuss more about those in the next tutorials, but not next tutorial is already reserved for discussing further these attributes, which is going to lead us to discuss about classes. Then it will make more sense as we move further to other concepts, right? So yeah, so now let's discuss the one with parameters, right? So we can say down parameters and the return value as well. Okay, so this one returns method with parameters and a return value. Cool. So this one, same thing, right? Static is the topic of this week, static, and then we have a return value, right? So let's just return a string, and then what add names. Okay, I'm gambling here because I wanna do addition, string, name A, string, name B. I'm just gonna use A and B to name those variables, and then I'm gonna return A plus B. Cool. Let's hope this is gonna work. because it feels weird adding strings, but you can concatenate or add strings in C sharp. Cool. After that, you can have your statement there. Console dot write line. Cool. And then what you're gonna have is names, and then you add that with add names. Did I say name? Add names or add names? Yeah, it's add names. That's the function name. Then I pass in the parameter, so it's rex the coder. There we go, and let's execute. Let's clear this first and execute and see if the compiler is gonna be happy. And the compiler is happy, and our function does add my value. So the first string was morex d, the second one is coda. So I could have chosen to have three parameters and add them into one parameter in a way. So that's how you can do all these methods, or how you can use these methods. So don't be limited to just doing a list of things. You can do a lot of things with methods. And one thing that I would love to advise is that don't limit yourself with what you just get from the videos. The videos are just giving you a bit of it's more of an aid, so that you can understand the concepts and what concepts to learn as a beginner, right? But based on how well you commit yourself into studying on a self-study, and the concepts you get to cover outside these videos will determine how far you go. So far you just see me running all this and like, how did this guy get to just be a coding machine? As you see, I'm using Vim, which is a good way of learning effectively if you truly want to know your concepts, right? Why do I say this? In IDE, whenever you're typing something, it auto predicts, and it will give you suggestions. So with Vim or with a text editor, any text editor, you don't get to have that privilege, meaning that you have to know all the names of your parameters, all the names of your keywords, all whatever characters are needed in order for you to write in a way that will be understood by the C# compiler. Any word, any syntax that you have. So basically, to cover it short, you have to know your syntax. What methods associated with strings, methods associated with whatever sequence or whatever concepts you're dealing with. Because if you have arrays have methods, so you need to know what methods are there. So that's why I love Vim. I'm not saying that you should use Vim. I'm just saying that at some point it's always better, especially if you're a beginner, just for you to get the comfort or getting comfortable with writing any program. Like for instance, can someone just wake you up in the morning, give you a text editor and say write this program, and then just type without having to rely on the internet? Because you want to try to avoid relying on the internet for the wrong things. Imagine relying on the internet for the syntax. Not so good. But you want to rely on the internet on more complex stuff, because even I wouldn't say I know everything at this point. Nope. There's still a lot of things I don't know. And also, when you learn a language, you also get exposed to learning frameworks. A lot of concepts get to be introduced. But then you knowing your basics, right? You just have to learn, okay, this is a new thing, this is how it works, and then you start exploring, how do I do this? And then now I have that knowledge, how can I use that knowledge to successfully do this is what I want to do, which makes use of my basic concepts and the concepts of the framework. I hope that makes sense. Without any further ado, let's just do one last one without parameters, and then you guys will go and enjoy. Cool. Method without parameters, right? I.e. not return value as well. Oh, actually, because we already did that, but let me just put it for now. No return value. Why do I keep on pressing R? I know it's next to E, but should choose the one I want. Okay, cool. Static void, that you know. And then let's just say display info. Already we have display function, we just have to display info, right? Wait, we already discussed that, so this has to have parameters because we already discussed the one without parameters. Sorry for the confusion. Then what I want to discuss here is I want to have int. Okay, I want to have a string, which is the name, and then I want to have int, which is the age. So we can have parameters of different types, right? And then what I'm going to do there is just display console dot write line info. Say this is personal details, and then you end line. And let's also do this end line star 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 star, and then we have star 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 star, and then we ended the line, right? After that, what we're gonna do is we're gonna have, okay, we ended the line, and then we're gonna have name, and then we have name. I know this is confusing, but if you were practicing before, like our printing and playing around with the skills or the tips I showed you, you should be finding this easy. But then rest assured, if you're not finding it easy, just revise your right line and see the things you can with the print function. A print function alone, it's just okay, simply it just prints out something, right? But you can format your output to whatever that you want the output to appear to be, right? Because this I'm just using, because this you could just do this with multiple lines if you want, but I'm just gonna use one line. Then it's age, so you could use multiple write lines instead of just doing it on one line. But I mean, I'm just playing around with just one line for now, but you cannot be limited to just one thing. That's what I'm trying to say. Cool. So let's do this a bit. There we go. I hope you guys are able to see this. I just wanted to have it in a more nice view than this one, because that one was a bit confusing, but this is how the whole thing sees is at the end. So yeah, you have a right line, and then you have an end line, right? And then you have a star space personal details space. This is more like you're creating a CV. You can actually create a program that creates a CV for someone else. So it has the concept, and then it converts that to a PDF. So you can actually have a program that creates a CV or a curriculum vitae for anyone. So basically, if you do that, say for instance, right, there's this small company that helps people create CVs, right, and then they pay for the CVs, right? If they want, instead of them always just typing all that, you can create a simple program that creates a CV for them, and this program can also be told how to style the CV, right? So you can have a program that has various styles, and that company will come to you and they buy your software, right? When they buy your software, they will pay you. They have to pay you for your hard work, because you're gonna make their lives easy. And then when people go to that company and they're paying down the line, if they are really doing a good job, or if they're really doing a good job in terms of their services and people like their services, they will have more customers, and they will be able to have the money they use in terms of buying the software, and then from there it will be profit time for them. So you can do that or create a program like that. So that's one of the good things about being a coder or being a software developer, is that you get to develop softwares that you can sell to service providers, companies, right? Because they provide the services, but you find that the way that they're going about things is not that much effective. I mean, with this program, they can have it in any computer, and they don't really need to be there. The person themselves, they just go there, insert their details. After they insert their details, they choose the format they want. So you can create a program that has a lot of those things, and then after that, they get to be provided with the preview. Okay, cool. If they apply this style, this is how it's gonna look like. If I apply this style, this is how it's gonna look like. And yeah, you can do a lot. You can do a lot actually. But yeah, let me not divert from what we're doing. So we created a method, right? The only thing that's left for us is just to call the display info, which I'm just gonna copy. And then we're gonna get to, where is it? There's my keys are there. And there we are. And then in terms of the name, I'm just gonna call these Morendwa. Say I am 90 years old, so I'm just gonna pass in 90. And then we go. Let's execute our program. Morendwa does not exist in the current. Oh, I forgot. So if it's a string, you surround it with double quotes. There we go. And here we are. Personal details, Morendwa. So this is what my method does. That's what my method does. And I do hope you guys did enjoy this tutorial, and I do hope that you guys are gonna be masters of static methods when we come next week, because we're gonna have a bit more of complicated concepts. And trust me, you wouldn't get it the first time, but it gets easy as time goes on. Okay. So yeah, that's it from me, and I shall see you guys in the next week's tutorial. Enjoy.